As you can see, we have our point guard a little overdressed for Los Angeles. I made a comment to him, and I know I'm not underdressed, but I think for Los Angeles he's going to have to. Looks good though. Looks good. Jeremy's been in Asia for the last two and a half weeks, and he came to Los Angeles, I guess about a week ago, for his physical, and we had a chance to visit in my office, and the first thing I said to him when he sat down was, 3 times is a charm, and he kind of looked at me like you'd expect. What are you talking about? And I explained to him, when he was a rookie, an undrafted rookie, he had a really good summer league, and we were negotiating with his representative to bring him to Laker camp. And there was guaranteed money involved, and we got to a point where we were the same as, I believe, the Warriors. And Jeremy, I guess because of his roots in the Bay Area, chose the Warriors. So we missed out on Jeremy, I guess, 4 years ago. Is that about right? 3 or 4 years ago. And then he was waived by the Warriors, and unbeknownst to this crew, this crowd here, we put a claim in on him. And I guess that was about 3 years ago. And because our record at the time was a lot better than it was this past year, and it goes in reverse order, we were not awarded the claim. He was awarded to Houston. So that brings us to today, 10 days ago when we made a trade, and for the third attempt, this time we got Jeremy Lin. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Jeremy. We have his uniform, and give him a big welcome to Los Angeles. Number 17, huh?
Yeah.
Couldn't cut that deal, huh?
Nah, I tried.
You wouldn't do it?
Yeah, he didn't want it.
Maybe he knows about that deal that Daryl made.
Yeah,
And he's just holding up.
probably.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, man. Welcome.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate it. I'm just really excited to be a part of this organization, and obviously for me it's been I'm seeing it as a new start, a fresh start, and it's good to be back in the state of California. I was born in Torrance, so not too far away from here, and so it's definitely good to be back, and I guess if you guys have questions, we can open it up.
Jeremy, what's this past year been like for you? Just the role that you had and you're going through trade speculation?
Yeah, it's been definitely an up and down year for me, and I think when I look back on not just this past year, but maybe the past 2 years, I think I've learned and grown a lot as a person, as a Christian, and also as a basketball player. I think from the minute that I stepped into Houston till now, I'm definitely a much more complete player, and I've learned how to do a lot of things that maybe I never had to do before, which was learning how to play off the ball and cutting and really challenging myself with some of the weaknesses that I've had to try to improve on.
Jeremy, do you think you can start with this team? Obviously, Nash was kind of in and out of the lineup a lot last year. Do you think you're the starter?
That's just a question that's up for the coach, and I know right now, that's obviously a question that can't be answered. And if you ask me, or I think if you ask any player, I think they'll believe that they're capable of starting. But I think if there's anything I've learned from this past year, it's really not that much about who starts. I think it's more about who finishes and how you play with the time that you're given. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned this last year. But to answer your question, I mean, I obviously believe that I can start for an NBA team and help that team win. And as a competitor, I would obviously love to, but that's that's not me coming in saying I need this or I need that. I just want to be a part of the team.
Is this trade cause you to think back to that Friday night game of the Garden against the Lakers? It was kind of the height of your ascension with the Knicks.
I mean, it hasn't until I got asked like 500 questions about it in Asia the last 3 weeks. That's definitely, I didn't think of that at all when I first heard about it. But, I've replayed that game in my head a few times in the past couple weeks.
What attracted you to the Lakers, and what kind of chemistry do you expect to have with Kobe?
Well, I was traded here, so I guess, and I had no idea that it was coming because I hadn't heard about it. And the only thing I had been hearing the whole time was names of other teams. And so when I got the call, I was just stunned. I was like, what, the Lakers? And your second question, I think it'll be great. I think I've had the opportunity to be able to play with a few really good players, with Carmelo, James Harden, and now Kobe. And I think I'll be able to learn a lot from him. And he's been there, and he's done it, and he's won at the highest level. And I'm just excited to be able to learn from him, to be honest, and see how he approaches everything. Because I've developed like my own, maybe my own structure, my own rhythm of how I approach the season and what my workouts look like. But I would love to see what his look like as well.
Kobe's already got on the phone with some of the players the Lakers have acquired. Are you one of them? Has he talked to you already?
Yeah, we've exchanged text message and stuff. I was in Shanghai at the time, so it was really weird time difference. But we've talked a little bit here and there. And the one thing that he kind of just told me was we have a lot of work to do, and I think that's 100% accurate. And I think as long as we come in with that mindset of really having to work and understanding that we have to earn everything, I think we'll be okay.
Just wondering why choose the number 17 again?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. I like number 7, and that's it has a lot of meaning to me, and that's the number that I came into the league with in summer league. But Xavier Henry is number 7 here, and 17 has been a special number to me as well. I wore it in the D League, and I wore it in New York. When I wore it in the D League when I was with the Reno Bighorns, and I wore it in New York. And I felt like this was a good time to go back to that number.
Jeremy, a lot was made about the way the Houston Rockets showed Carmelo Anthony around with your number 7. How did that affect you? What was your reaction?
Yeah, I think I guess my Twitter kind of summed it all up, what I wrote there. But I guess my whole thought process was, I definitely didn't lose any sleep. I wasn't like outraged or anything. I wasn't really upset. I just felt like, they could have maybe kept it internal. But again, it wasn't a big thing to me. I did feel like, in some ways it could have been handled a little differently, but I wasn't outraged by in any way. And then I just thought that me coming here and the way everything happened, it's just a great opportunity to start over and be a part of a different organization and be a part of a different team. And I'm excited for the future.
Back to the starting element or coming off the bench, how did your perspective change on that versus the time in Houston and wanting to start?
Yeah, I think because of my career, I went from not even thinking I was going to make it and play tomorrow in an NBA game to starting. It just happened so fast. And then after my year in New York, I kind of just I wanted to stay on that path, and I wanted to be a starter, and that was something that I really cherished. And I just I really appreciated it because I was on the other end of getting cut and getting waived and, all these different things. And then maybe held on to it a little too tightly. And I think the one thing that I really learned this past year is just starter or not starter. I just have to play the way I'm capable of playing, and I have to play my style and brand of basketball. And as long as I do that, I think I'll be fine on any team. I think I'll be able to contribute and make plays and be on the court when it really, really counts.
In your travels overseas, what have you noticed about the Lakers international brand, maybe versus some of the other teams?
It's huge. Well, first, Kobe is just an idol in Asia, obviously, and so the day it was funny, it was just like all red Rockets, and then the minute that I had signed, came back, got my physical, and went back to Asia, everything was yellow, and like it was just like everybody was wearing only yellow, and so it was funny. It was like it's like the jerseys were already bought. They've already owned Lakers apparel. And that's definitely something that I noticed. I was just like, wow, that was fast. I was like trying to find some Lakers stuff myself, like trying to get a hat or something. And everyone else had it already. I was like, all right. Mm-hmm. I think I guess that goes back to one of the first comments that I said, where I kind of said I'm a more mature person. I think that's one thing I've experienced is I've gone through the highs and the lows of an NBA career, and I've done it in the spotlight. And I think going through New York has prepared me and given me a different perspective, just to be able to deal with everything that happened there, and then kind of going to Houston where things settled down and there wasn't as much of a spotlight, and coming back to in LA where there will be a bigger market and a much bigger spotlight. And I think hopefully I'm able to be able to handle it even better with each and every passing year. And I think one of the biggest ways I want to be able to handle it is just to not let it affect the way that I play, or not to think about it or feel pressured like, oh, I had to play well because of this or that, or what are people going to say. I think now more than ever, I've really learned just to play for God and to really ignore everything on the outside. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that, vividly. I definitely, I was just like, okay, if I get to play with a Steve Nash or a Jason Kidd, I would be extremely excited, because they were kind of, towards the end of their career, and I think I just thought that there was so much I could learn from either of those two players, and I never got the opportunity, obviously, going to Houston. So I never got a chance to be with Jason Kidd when he was out there, and obviously Steve came here. And so now I have this opportunity. I can't wait. I still remember when he was in Phoenix, and just, 20 and 10 every night. So I look forward to learning quite a few things from him.
What do you most admire about this game?
I would say when you think about players who have made the most with what they've had, he has to be at the top of the list or near the top of the list. And me playing against him, one of the things that I kind of wish I had gotten to do was play against him when he was in his prime, and versus when he was when I came into the league a little later. But his footwork is amazing, and his use of angles. It's just, you can't really appreciate it until you try to guard him.
Because he's at a different stage in his career where there's obviously uncertainty with his health, how do you go about approaching that role just in terms of providing reinforcements of that?
My approach won't change. I think my approach shouldn't ever change. It should just be to be on attack mode all the time, because that's who I am as a player. And regardless of his health or anybody else's health, I'm going to be on the attack. And I think I actually look forward to one thing that I thought worked well for us in Houston was when me and Pat Beverly played together, and I would love to play alongside Steve Nash too, and be able to play with him just as a maybe an off guard or whatever, where the ball is constantly moving and he's pushing the pace, or I'm pushing the pace. I think that'd be really fun.
The maturity that you've come into over the past several years, did the comments that Harden recently made regarding him and Dwight being the cornerstones of rest being role players, does that
Um, it didn't affect me at all. I agree with his statements. Those two are the cornerstones, and they have lost other players, and they're going to get other players, and they're going to be a good team. But I know who James is as a person, and I've spoken to him since I've been traded, and he didn't mean it in any derogatory or condescending way. I just think he totally meant. I do believe. I don't think it's a secret that him and Dwight are the cornerstones of the Houston Rockets.
You mentioned, talked about your brand of basketball. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that, what your brand is, and what you've been doing, some of the things you've been doing to try to relive that banner season that you had?
Well, I think that's one thing. I'm not trying to relive that banner season, and I think that's been a big weight off my shoulder, and I think that's very important for me as a player. I'm not trying to be recreate a Linsanity. I'm not trying to be that phenomenon that happened in New York. I think I just want to be myself more than ever. And I guess my brand of basketball is just attacking on the go, playmaking. And I am a 0 to 100 player, and I like to stay at 100, and I think that's one of my weaknesses as a player at times. But and I'm learning to have more composure and to be able to be more under control, but at the same time to be very aggressive. And I guess what I mean by that is, like, if you watch like a Chris Paul or a Tony Parker or those guys, they are always attacking, but they're always under control. And one thing I've worked a lot on this summer is a floater. To be able to get in the lane, and if you can't get all the way to the rim around 6 to 10 feet, just to be able to throw up a floater and to use change of pace to be able to maybe score or get to a certain spot and create a play that you don't need to where you don't need to force the issue.
Since you're playing for Lakers now, which you're going to have a much larger Chinese population here who's going to support you, how do you think that's going to help you play? And also, can you say something in Chinese as a Lakers player now?
I've said so much Chinese in the last 3 weeks, so I can definitely do that. 我很兴奋加盟湖人队，我觉得今年会是一个很好的球季。I think it's funny. I'm no stranger to large Asian populations. I played in San Francisco, New York, Houston, and now LA. So I've always said and always will be grateful for their support, and I know how diehard the fans can be and how supportive and enthusiastic they can be, and that's one thing that I always appreciate through the ups and the downs is the support of the Asian community.
When you talk about trying not to recreate the Linsanity thing, when did you start to get a handle on getting past that?
I would say probably my first year in Houston really taught me that. And it was my first year in Houston, and put a lot of pressure on myself to try to be that player. And I think now my goal is more like, I'm not trying to be a player from the past. I'm trying to make history again. And it's not so much about me trying to be something that happened beforehand. And now I'm looking to the future and trying to be a much bigger and better player than I was ever before.
So as you come to the Lakers, you obviously didn't have a great year last year, and sort of that transition stage for the franchise. Do you feel pressure coming here to do anything in particular?
Again, I really, to be honest, I have the least amount of pressure on my shoulders. I feel the least amount of pressure on my shoulders now than I ever have. And I think one thing that I really try to do is not let my circumstances dictate the pressure that I feel as a player. And I don't think I play well when I do put a lot of pressure on myself from an outside standpoint. I know what I want to accomplish as a player and what the right way to play is, and I think as long as I do that, I can hold my head up high and be proud of myself.
Aside from this reduction on the court during that Linsanity period, did you enjoy all that other stuff that came with it?
It depends. Definitely enjoyed some of the cool perks and stuff and the fun things that I was able to do, the GQ magazine and things like that. Those are all like lifetime opportunity, once in a lifetime opportunities. And then there's a lot of the other stuff that I guess I had never been exposed to and really had to adjust to, and not having enough or as much privacy, and kind of having a lot of people just coming at me and my family, my friends, and us learning and dealing with that. But that's something that's made me, my family, my team, and my friends a lot stronger, and I think that's what has prepared us for hopefully, everything that's going to happen in the future, and I think it'll hopefully prepare us for being able to play in a place like LA with such an incredible fan base, and the attention that you garner just from being a Los Angeles Laker. Do I what? How fast? When's the first preseason game? October 9th. I'll be there if everything goes as planned. I'll be there healthy and on the court. Is that what you did you mean, like in terms of health? When you're gonna really see me play? The game? Hopefully right away. I don't plan on delaying it or making I don't plan on showing up fashionably late. I think I'm going to try to do my best to be right there on time, October 9th. I definitely didn't try to emulate Kobe because his skill set is just clearly different than mine. I don't think I've ever shot a fadeaway jumper from the mid-post ever. So I think I'll stick to Nash. I think one of the things that I watch with Nash a lot is kind of like offhand layups or like, off-foot layups, and just picking up a lot on his left-hand passing, and the way that he reads pick and rolls. The timing of his pass, I would say too. Like I tend to take an extra dribble, but he gets the ball out at the right time. So just picking up on little things like that. I've talked to both of them, yeah. But I knew Steve beforehand, and we've, whether it was a soccer charity game that he had here in LA last year, or we've done a YouTube video together as well. So I knew him beforehand.
Jeremy, you mentioned some testimony provided about how you overcame freedom anxieties and sharpened some of your mental toughness and alluding to faith. How do you see someone like Kobe helping to expand that even more in terms of mental toughness and dealing with adversity?
Yeah, I think one of the things that the outside audience or the fans don't get to see as much or appreciate as much out of any professional athlete is the mental side. And people don't, I don't think people fully understand how much of a mental game professional sports is, or sports in general. And I think, I think Kobe, anybody who wins and wins as much as he does, definitely has a mental edge on everybody else. And I think that's something that I would love to learn. And like I had mentioned earlier in my testimony, that's something that I've grown a lot in. And I think that's made me, that's why I also say, I would like to say I'm a stronger Christian, and through it all, and to be able to deal with the pressures and the anxiety and all the things that we have to go through. It doesn't affect it too much because I would say right now, me and my trainer, we have our goals for me as a player, and that wouldn't change regardless of who the coach is. I think that'll as we approach training camp more and more, I think I will start to be able to think and prepare more for about maybe what the team might look like or the style of play. But right now we kind of have our set of goals that we're trying to achieve and the certain things that we're trying to get better at. And so right now, I guess it doesn't affect it as much. But it would be I think the Lakers are going to take their time, and I'll probably find out whenever everybody else finds out. And I think from then on, hopefully I'll be able to have a conversation with the coach and be able to figure out exactly what's what or what they expect of me and things like that.
We know that you have a very close relationship with your family, and then your dad is your basketball coach in the beginning, and also your dad's idol is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So now you are in the being the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar idol. So how do you ever talk about this with your dad?
Yeah, I guess my dad was my basketball coach. I guess coach could be a very loose term. I grew up playing with my dad, and we loved playing together. But I wouldn't call him fundamentally sound. But I definitely learned to love the game through my dad, and his favorite player was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And the one thing that everyone talks about when my dad plays is how much he likes to shoot a hook shot. So that won't, obviously he's a big fan, and he's known about the organization for a while.